Remember, guys, whenever you're finished, you're to raise your hand and let me know. All right, guys. Let me see your hand if you're getting on your way and you're not, and you actually understand what you're doing. Would you like me to put back the formula, guys? Is everybody clear with the formula?
Sir,
Yes.
I'm clear with the formula, but for the first one, I'm stuck at 41 over 8 because we never really get the last part, or you get it to be this decimal, and it that you would actually add B, the B on the outside to one of them. So I'm not sure about that part there. So I'm stuck right there. So for the two of them, I attend.
All right, so the formula would be equal to minus plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over, everything over 2a. So based on this, we know a is equal to 4, b equal to minus 3, and c equal to minus 2. So if we plug in those values, you would get minus 3 plus or minus square root of minus 3 squared minus 4 times a, and a would be 4, so it's 4 times 4 times minus 2 all right, so this root sign is all over that. And then we have 2a, 2 times 4. So work out what is under the root sign first. Actually, you can use the negative times negative 3, give you a positive 3 here. Now, under the root sign, we would have negative 3 squared. When you square a negative number, you get a positive number. So that's positive 9. Now, notice that you have a negative 4 and you have a negative 2 in this. When you multiply our two negatives together, you're going to get a positive. So we're going to have 4, 4, 16 times 2. That will give you 32, but that's going to be a positive 32. So you're going to plus that. And then you put that over 2 times 4, will give you 8. Now, so you're going to add 9 plus 32, you will get x equal to 3 plus or minus square root of, you add 9 plus 32, you will get 41. So it's square root of 41 all over 8. Now you have to find the square root of 41 with your calculator first. What you get? Miss Wilson?
Yes, sir. I got 6 point. How many decimal places you needed to say?
At least at least 3, meaning that you can have 3 or more.
Okay, sir. So that would be 6.403.
All right, so you have plus 3 plus or minus. What you say you have 6.403.
403.
4,
0, 3.
Remember, you have to round this off though. If you have
Yeah, man. Yes, sir. So it's 6.4031. So you know one you can't round off, so it would be 6.403.
Right. So now you put back on this over 8.
Mm-hmm.
Remember now, one case is when you plus, and the other case is when you're minus. So you're going to split this into different cases. So you're going to have x is equal to, all right, so you have x equal to 3. So you're plussing in one case, so 3 plus 6.403. And so that case, would put it over 8. So you're going to go ahead and just add them and then divide by 8 for that scenario. The next scenario is when you subtract. So you're going to have, in the second scenario, x is equal to 3 minus 6.403. So now what you do now, you're going to take away 6.403 from 3 and then divide it by 8. So that will give you the second answer to x. So the first answer to x you would get for when you plus it, when you plus the 6.403. The second answer is when you subtract the 6.403. Do you get that, Ms. Wasom? So you're going to plus, then you divide by 8, and then
Yes, sir.
you're going to minus, and then you divide by 8. Is that clear to everyone? Raise your hand if you are all following what to do. Okay. All right. So so you should be able to at least work out the first one. So I'm going to ask you, just for practice sake, you can practice question 2 and 3 and even 4 if you feel, you know, the more you practice, the more you feel more comfortable about it. Now, what I want to look at, I want to look at question 7 and question 8, because these are questions that if you get these questions, you should be able to know how to do them. So let me just clear what I have here. And so how would you go about solving question 7? Can somebody explain to me what you would do? Anybody?
Sir, would it be that we multiply out the bracket and then regroup?
Exactly. So you would remove the brackets by multiply out what is inside by what is outside. Then you would bring like terms together and add them. And then you bring the 5 on the left-hand side. So you simplify all that you have on the left-hand side after you remove the brackets. And you should simplify it and get some trinomial looking like any of these, right? And once you simplify it to a trinomial, then you can apply the formula, or you can try to see if you can factorize first. The key thing about solving quadratics is that the first thing that you want to try is to see if you can factorize, because oftentimes the factorization will take less time to solve if you're using factorization method, especially if you understand how to factorize. But sometimes people just jump to the formula without seeing if you can factorize. Now you can use the formula even when it can be factorized. The formula will still give you the right answer. So whichever scenario you get, whether or not the expression can be factorized or not, you can use the formula. But it's still best to see if you can factorize it first, if you are comfortable with factorization. If you are not comfortable with factorization, I would say use the formula. All right, guys. So the same thing you would do for question 8 and question 9. And let me see, and question 10. You remove the brackets first and bring everything on one side of the equation, then you simplify into a quadratic or trinomial form. Any question, guys? Any question? All right, so if you are through with those, I want to just look at one last thing with the quadratic. All right, so equation giving rise to quadratic. Now, there are times when you may have simultaneous equation that involve quadratic. Now, when we were looking earlier on simultaneous equation, we saw where we could use the elimination method because those were linear form. It means that the power of the x and the y in those form would be to the power 1. But when you get a simultaneous equation where there's a quadratic involved, then you cannot use elimination method because you're going to get two equations. In this case, one is a linear and one is a nonlinear. How do you know when the equation is linear? You look at the power. So for the power of x, it is to the power 1, the power of y is to the power 1. So if the power is 1 for both variables, then it is a linear. But if you look at the power and you have a square, then that is a nonlinear. If you see the product of the two variables, that is also a nonlinear. So these are the things that tell you when you have a nonlinear. So if you have a linear and a nonlinear, you cannot use the elimination method to solve this. So you have to use the substitution method. And so how does the substitution method work? Well, the substitution method works by making using one of the equation to get one of the unknown, the subject. All right, so let us go through this one. Now, it is easier to make your subject using the linear equation. So use the one where you have the linear to make your subject. There are times when you can use a nonlinear one, but it's always safer to use the linear one to make a subject. Now, what do I mean by making the subject? You're going to either choose to keep x by itself on one side, or you're going to choose to keep y by itself on one side. So if you choose to make y the subject, then you're deciding to solve for x. If you choose to keep x the subject, then you're deciding to solve for y. All right, so from equation 1, we are making y the subject. So if you follow from equation 1, if you make y the subject, it means that we bring over the y over on this side so that it becomes positive, and then we bring over the 4 on that side so the 4 becomes negative. So y is equal to 3x minus 4. Everybody see that? Raise your hand if you see how we get y equal to 3x minus 4. Anybody else? All right. All right, good. Miss Green, are you seeing that? Not seeing Mr. Lamar. Apparently, Mr. Lamar.
Yes, sir.
Did not come back. All right. Now, you remember when we were doing functions and we were doing composite function and we were putting the entire function into the other function? Is the same thing that we're doing. So we are making y the subject. So it means that y equal to 3x minus 4. Now in the other equation, so we use equation 1 to make y the subject. So in the other equation, which is equation 2, wherever we have y, we're going to replace it with 3x minus 4 in brackets. So wherever y is, we put 3x minus 4 in brackets. Raise your hand if you understand what I'm saying, guys. Right. So you're replacing the y. So instead of writing back 3xy, you're going to write 3x bracket 3x minus 4 close brackets. So that's what you should have. All right, so let us see what that looks like. So you will have this. So this is how it would look when you put 3x minus 4 instead of the y. So if you put this where the y is, take out the y and put that, then you will get this. Now, once you get this now, what you can do is remove brackets by multiplying out what is in the bracket by what is in front of the bracket. So you have negative 3 in front of this bracket. So negative 3x, so you multiply out by negative 3x. So when you multiply, it's a negative 3x times 3x give you negative 9x squared. Then negative 3x times negative 4x give you positive 12x. So when you multiply out that bracket, you should get negative 9x squared plus 12x plus 8 equals 0. Now you add like terms, so you add the squares together. So you have a positive x squared, you have a negative 9x squared. So one is positive, one is negative. So you know, if you have 9x squared, if you owe 9x squared and you pay back x squared, you're going to have negative 8x squared. And so from here now, you can look for a common factor, can divide everything. You notice that if you divide this through by which factor? Which factor can divide 8 and 12?
2, sir. Or 4 would be the highest.
The highest, right, the highest common factor. But don't just divide by 4, divide by negative 4, because when you use negative 4, this x squared value, you want it to be positive. So if you divide by 4, you will get that. And once you divide by 4, guys, it simplifies your quadratic. And from there now, you can apply either factorization technique to solve it, or you can use the formula. So whichever one works. In this case, you notice it can be factorized. So you factorize it and use the factorization method. So either 2x plus 1 equal to 0, which implies when you solve it, x is equal to minus a half. Or if x minus 2 equals 0, then when you solve, x is equal to 2. And so now when you solve for x, remember now, you're going to need to solve for y. But remember, y is equal to 3x minus 4. This is what you use to make the substitution. So this substitution, you want to use this now to solve for y. So for each value of the x value that you solve for, you're going to substitute them one at a time. So you're going to substitute x equal to minus a half first and solve. And then you substitute x is equal to 2 and solve. And then you get that. All right, guys, so are you clear with that? So you put the value of x equal to a half beside, so x here, you replace this x with, remember it's two values of x you have. You have x equal negative a half, and you have x equal 2. So you're solving for x equal to a half first. When x equal to a half, you plug in the half where the x is in this. You multiply by the 3, so negative 3, 3 times negative a half, then minus 4. This is one value for y. When x equal 2, you have 3 times 2 minus 4, which is 6 minus 4 give you 2. So that's the other value for y. So you have 2 values for x and 2 values for y. So that's how this equation is solved. Any question? All right, guys. Let me see if there's another example there. All right. Try the first equation. Just try question 1 and see if you can solve it like that. Raise your hand when you're finished, guys. Anybody finish with the substitution? Which of these would be the linear and which of these would be the nonlinear?
First one is the linear, sir, and the second one is the non-linear.
Right. So generally you want to make your subject from the linear one. So you can make either x or y the subject. It depends on which one you want to solve first.
Okay.
All right, so when you're finished, just raise your hand. All right, guys, let us see if we can quickly go through this in the interest of time. So if you make y the subject, you would bring over the x And so y would be equal to, y would be equal to 3 minus x. So what you're going to do is put all of this into the second equation where y is. So you will get x bracket 3 minus x close brackets equal to 2. Or remember now, you have to remove your brackets. So x times 3 give you 3x. X minus x, x times minus x give you minus x squared equal to 2. Now, what you want to do is keep the x square on the side where it is positive. So because this is a negative x square, if you put it on the other side, it becomes positive. So it means that you have to bring over the 3x on that side too. So you could write 0 on this side equal to, bring over the x square, the negative becomes positive x square. Bring over the 3x, positive 3x become minus 3x. And then now you plus the 2, right? Now you can flip around the equation if you want. So you can now say x squared minus 3x plus 2 is equal to 0. And then now you can solve this either by factorizing if it can factorize, or if it can't be factorized, you use a formula. So if you try factorizing this, the last term is positive. So the two factors are either 2 negative or 2 positive. The middle term is negative, so the 2 factor is 2 negative. So your factors should be x. You should have x with, it's 2 negative factors. So it's x negative 2 and x with negative 1. And that is equal to 0. All right. So when you solve for x, x going to be either equal to what? X is equal to 2 or x is equal to 1. And now to get y, you write back this equation that you have for y. So that would be 3 minus x. And then now you solve with each value of x. So you can put when x equal 2, you put y is equal to 3 minus 2. And then now you get y is equal to 1. For the other scenario, when x equal to 1, you have y equal to 3 minus 1. And in this case, y would be equal to 2. So you would have 2 values for y. Y would either be 1 or y would either be 2. And then you have 2 values for x. X would either be 2 and x would either be 1. All right, guys, everybody see that? So what I'm going to suggest that you do is to try these exercises, practice them, because the slide is already on the website, so you're able to access these. All right, so go through and practice these. And what you can do, read the rest of the notes, because there are worded problems that give rise to quadratic 2. But it's on the notes. So I'm going to ask that you read up on that too, guys. All right. So with that said, we're going to stop here for today, and then tomorrow meet again, the usual time. All right, guys.